Hey guys, we're going to make a start on the fitting of a brake disc. Slight change of plan. I've thought of a slightly less complicated method than making an expanding arbor, apart from which the expanding arbor may not even have enough grip. So what I got here, not that you can see the foot, it's only about, what is it, about 3.5 inches long. It's a slug of round that I had, pretty corroded, but I've just faced off enough of this end. It's not running quite as true as I'd like, but what I'm going to do is work on this end. We'll turn this down to 1 5/8. Then we've got to bore it out to a depth of 3/4 to a diameter of 1 1/4. Then we'll have 4 set screws around that, which will enable me to lock onto the end of the motor. I'll point to that in a moment. And once this end is done, and then we will leave almost exactly this diameter for a large boss or collar, which will be, I think, 5/16 thick. And then the other end will be to take the disc. Now you can probably see here with 2.5 I'm just about okay to put 6 mounting screws in. It'll all become clearer as we go. So I'll just point out what I'm going to do on the end of the motor. Alright, so here's the end of the motor, which you may have seen before on previous videos. I was going to use this bore for an expanding arbor, but this piece here, which is 3/4 front to back, and then there's a shoulder, and the OD of the shoulder there is 1 5/8. So what we're going to do is to turn my big slug of round. We'll turn it down so that we finish up at 1 5/8, the same as the OD of this back shoulder. That'll mean we clear these nuts on the fork, and then we'll go bit plus on 3/4 so that we can go over here, and I say we'll use 4 set screws to lock on place, and then we'll come forward probably about 1/4 inch, and then make the large 2.5 inch flange or collar. No, it's not a collar, is it? Some sort of flange. And we'll mount this onto that and just have a little, probably only about 3/8, half an inch coming through the center of the disc. Once all that's done, then we have to work out how to position the caliper. So we're going to start some cutting and see where we go from there. Well, I've got a long way to go down on this piece. Just taking some roughing cuts to make a start, see how it works out, and carry on from there. So it is only roughing. In fact, it's not the ideal tool, but it's adequate for what I'm needing for the time being. A lot of smoke, as you could see. So we'll go down a bit further and come back later. Well, we're down a couple of hundred. We've got a little way to go yet. I just thought I'd include a little bit of this. This tool doesn't like too heavy a cut, so I'm just being patient, but giving a pretty heavy hand feed. I'll get this bit finished off and then we'll start boring the inside. We should only have about 5 or 6 thou to go on here. Let's see what we've got. Yeah, 6 thou, and this actually isn't critical. Plus or minus a thou or two is quite unimportant. You may have noticed, incidentally, that haven't got any chip breaker on here. This is just a flat top piece of tungsten. So let's take a final cut on here. Actually, the camera angle's not very good. I can't really get the best position all the time. There we are, on the money. Minus half a thou. Now I'll get repositioned, I think, because I've got to get this board out, or I'll just I'll just take a light touch on here just to clean it up, but it's going to stay very close to the original diameter. Right, well, we got down to here to 1.625. That original 2.5 I've taken just about 4 thou skim because it wasn't running quite true. So we got that down to a decent finish. Quick touch off there for a chamfer. Now we've got to think about boring this out. So we'll get set up for that. Well, I put a centre drill in and just putting one larger drill through to make a start. It's just a spare 11/16, and I've put the back gear in. Try and keep the revolution sensible. I'll finish this off and then we'll put a larger drill in. I don't think I've got any bigger than 1 inch actually. It shouldn't matter. You may notice I'm on the 4-jaw chuck already. The reason being that when I started using a not very good boring bar to start on this central section, something I think it wasn't very well ground, and I had a slight catch in the rear of the pocket here, and it just went very slightly off center. It gave things a nudge, not very good. So I set up in the 4-jaw, which I'll have to use anyway when this is turned round to finish. So that's why we're on the 4-jaw already. We've got it running true now, and the bore is up to, we're on 1 inch. And we've got 125 to go nominally, which we'll have to check carefully. The boring bar is a very good quality one, but it's a little bit light. You probably can't see. I don't think I've tried to get a better angle, but anyway, there's probably a slight bit of spring in it, so I'm having to take light cuts and allow a cut on the return. So I'm just going to take another cut or two and then put the video off whilst I finish it. I'll just do a quick check here to see where we are. Of course, I know I'm going to get in the way of the camera here. Just see what that measures up at, and make sure we're on target. Fortunately I have, actually I don't know what I made it for. Hang on, let's just see where we are here. Let's see, yeah, that was a slightly light cut. It was 9 thou instead of 10. And anyway, yes, here, this here, this piece, which goodness knows when I made it, but I checked with the mic, and this end is exactly 1.25, and the depth is I think about 3/4. This will do as a go no go gauge when I get to the end of this boring section. And yes, because it's boring, I'm not going to keep the video running all the way through. We'll pick up at the end. We're getting a lot closer. It's time for a check just to see what we're doing on size. I meant to mention the small boring bar. I said to you it's got a bit of spring in it, and I also only put a very small radius on the tip, and that tends to make it a bit squeaky. Whoops, dropped my telescope gauge. Let's see what we've got now. Let's try and make dead sure on this. Let's see where we are. So we're just coming up to 175. Yeah. Right, we've got a little bit more cutting to do. I'm still taking a spring cut on the return, which is very important, mainly because of the slight spring in this bar. It's a very nice little boring bar, but I don't trust it on the one cut. I have to take it on the spring cut as well. So we'll just check again, get close to the final cuts, and then we can finish this section. I actually carried on this last phase, which is very critical, and we're just about spot on. Here's the sorry, this light's a bit bright because I've got it right overhead here. This is my go no go, which is exactly 1250. It's got a fairly rough exterior, but you can hear it catching a bit, and I can feel the suction, so that's a pretty good fit. The one thing that may occur is I think the boss on the end of the motor is possibly a smidgen over the 1.25 inches, so I'll probably polish that if necessary if this is tight, but I'm going to leave that there. I've just got to put a slight chamfer on that. I only want a slight touch just to break that edge, and then there's one other thing I'm going to do in this position. Bit of a whistle. That'll work. And I say, this boring bar is basically very good. It's a little bit small, and it hasn't got a very good radius on it. I just gave it a touch with a diamond lap. Needs a bit more, so it's a bit squeaky. Alright, now the other thing, whilst we're in this position, some of you may have seen an early video where I use a gear on the back of the spindle for dividing. So what I want to do is to divide 4 on here and have a center, virtually a center scribe, because that's where I'm going to put the set screws. So we'll get set up for that. Just a quick reminder, I've dealt with this in a much earlier video. This is my simple division setup for something straightforward. 76-inch gear, so that divides in all sorts of ways. So I'm going to use it for on the 16, which will give me a ×4, and just move a tool across the workpiece to give me a reference for when I come to drill for set screws. Right, that should be on the mark now, I think. Okay, well, that was pretty boring, wasn't it? I'm just going to get the gear out of the back and then we'll take this piece out. Well, that's marked up, but I wonder if you spotted the deliberate mistake. I put the first scribe lines on here instead of on here. Anyway, I've redone them, so I've got my marks. We'll centre pop and drill those at a later stage. So I'm going to take the piece out now and probably get the bandsaw working on it. Put some lube wax on the blade. It's a pretty fair chunk to get through, and not ideal for the vise because it's so darn short. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Something's stopping that blade from dropping. I know what it is. The vise has got in the way. Let's rearrange that. Well, I was going to show you the finish of the cut, but the piece fell off. Not too bad actually, considering I had to readjust the thing. So we've got to set this up in the 4-jaw next. One quick aside, those of you with one of these will know there's just a small Phillips M6 by 1. So I found a bit of scrap and turned it down, put a knurl on it, saves having a damn screwdriver every time. Right, well, we're just pretty much dialed in on this. Yeah, I'll go with that. We've just got to face this off and then turn down probably about a 1/4 inch to leave a stub, which will take the, if you're with me on what we're doing here, that is going to go, so we've got to have a center boss, which if for this to be a pretty tight fit, then we've got to drill the holes for the mounting bolts. So we've got a little bit to do yet. Altogether, surprising, it's a simple job, but it isn't. So we'll get this squared off. Just take one more pass. There's a little bit at one edge which doesn't really matter because that's going to be turned down to the center boss. So we'll just give it one more clean up. Right, it's fairly rough cut, just enough to clean that up. And we're pretty much coming to the end of a session, so we'll pick this up next time and get that center boss turned down. Let's carry on with this piece. I've made a start here. I'm keeping this center piece, which will be the boss for the disc. I'm keeping it oversized for now until we get down to depth on the should we call it the flange. Just take a little bit more of a cut here, taking it fairly slow. Cutting also on the return. I've got some way to go yet, so I won't bore you with that. About a 1/4 inch to take down yet. This tool bit cuts quite cleanly on the reverse direction, and when I'm roughing like this, it gets things done a little bit quicker. Getting close, about 20th hour to go. I'm just going to finish that off, take a slightly lighter cut, slightly better finish, and then we've got to sort out the boss diameter, which I want to be a pretty good fit for the disc. Just taking the boss down on its own now. We've got to depth of the flange, and I've got 25 thou to go, so we're going to run about 20 and see where we are. I'll just take a 15 and see where that gets us to. Always tend to slow down when I get closer to diameter. It's too easy to make mistakes. Let's see where we are. Looks like 1.5. And we want to 1.5, we want to get to 1.480, so we're getting very close there. Just taking the last half thou off this. I didn't want this to be a press fit, I wanted it just to be a nice easy fit over there. There we are. No slop, so we've got to mark out these holes at some point, get those drilled and tapped. We don't need it in the lathe anymore, I don't think, so we'll see if we can get on the boss on the back of the motor there, which may need a little bit of polish. Well, I've given this end boss a bit of polish. It wasn't very clean, and we were probably about a half thou or so shy of being good, so it's no, it's not. Now this will focus. So there's our bore, and then this is the side we've just fiddled with. So we're going to see if we can get on there. Of course there's suction, well, the opposite, pressure. Yeah, that's on all the way. It's up against that shoulder. It's just slightly smaller diameter than that shoulder, and totally firm, and a little as it comes off. So we've got, probably not possible to see, got a very fine score line, and I've got 4 cross scores to give me registration for the 4 holes for set screws. Once the set screws are done and in, we'll have to make a little indent on the motor shaft boss end, and then this let's just get the and there we are. Doesn't actually need to stick out as much as that, but there's no harm in having it generous. And so we're going to mark these 6 hole positions, get those drilled and tapped. We're getting there, a bit slow. I didn't record this whilst I was drilling because my hand would be in the way and you probably wouldn't see much, but like with most things, you find a way to do things. I got this clamp with leather in the jaws holding this, and I've just been indexing each of the 6 holes there just to get a start. Now I can take the disc off and complete the drilling and get some tapping done. That's 5 holes done. Just going to do the last one here using my marks as a guide. This is going through, this flange is 300 thick, so it's not too bad to get through. Okay, that's that one done. So we're drilled now for that. I've got to tap the holes and clean up a bit. Let's just put the disc on. You can't really see much. In fact, I have a suspicion that the division on that 6-hole set on the disc is probably not absolutely spot on. There's probably one position which would be better than any other. Now, I just finished tapping the 6th hole here. This is M5 by 0.8, and this is a nice, fairly new tap. Cuts beautifully. Right, well that's those holes tapped. Just check the screws for fit. I've got to get these 4 holes done. I'm not sure actually that I didn't have a weird exposure setting for a previous bit of footage. I guess we'll find out. Bit difficult setting this up, but I'm just doing a very simple by eye using a square, and I've got some reference marks, and that should set me up. Centre pop will do the first one, get that going and tapped, and then just do them in sequence. Bit tedious, but I think it'll work. Okay, slow but sure here. A bit tedious, but when you've done a load of work in advance, you don't really want to screw it up. Right, just get this fellow in. Oh dear. Sometimes the drill just doesn't want to go in the right place. Using tapping. This is a good old favourite British thread, by the way. You know I use these threads quite a bit. And 3/16 by 24. It's fairly coarse for its size, but it's got a nice bite. And we just got to tap this one. Just finish this hole off. I got these set screws pretty accurately marked up. I should probably put a register mark on the motor boss and this as well, just to make sure when I've got the set screws set up that they can always go back in the same place if there is a small error, which I've tried not to let happen. So let's take that out. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Slight burr inside. What I'll probably do is put this back in the 3-jaw later with a little bit of polishing paper just to get rid of any slight burr, because it's a very tight fit on the motor boss. Let's put the screws in. These, by the way, are cone point 1/4 inch set screws, as usual what I had, and they'll do very nicely. Try and get some light on here. There we are. So we're ready now. Once we get this polished up inside, just a deburr, which is quite slight, then we can fit the rotor disc onto here, and that's that aspect pretty much finished. And after that it's going to be a case of how to mount the caliper, which would be a whole new ball game. Right, I'm going to pick up on this in another session. Right, back to complete this phase. Had a few little interesting problems. There is, let's see if we can see that. Let's bring it down a bit. There's the one of the 4 cone point set screws. I got the positions marked up and tightened them down a bit too much, and had a hell of a job getting this boss, or this piece, off the end of the boss because of the slight dimple I'd raised. Anyway, cleaned that up, centre popped, and just used a small tungsten carbide drill, about an 1/8 drill I think it was, maybe slightly smaller, and just made 4 small pockets for the cone points to sit in. So that's done up. This is now done up. It's still got to have some thread lock eventually, but that's running pretty true, I think. So let's zoom back a little bit and just run it up. That's running pretty good. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that so far. The final stage, and I'll do another video on this because it's going to take me a while to get around to doing it. The caliper is going to go somewhere in this area, which if we go by the clock, it's probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And we'll probably bring a mounting from behind the caliper down to hopefully a couple of bolts down here. Somebody mentioned about those, and if I can use them it'll help. We'll see. That's going to be sort of second and see time to get things set up, and it'll have to be done with some adjustment on the mounting so as to get the final position just right. So for this one, now we're complete with the main phase. We'll call this phase 1, the main phase, and we'll finish this video now and complete things later in another one. If you got this far, thanks for watching, guys.